title. I see Gigguk and Isekai in the same title. I don't need to think. Let's just watch the video. Best Isekai anime. What's going on?
Now is our time.
Oh, it's Anime Awards. Anime Awards has included a new category called Best Isekai Anime. All right.
Time to write.
But aren't these award shows just fraudulent? Like a bunch of people that have no understanding of actual anime? Like, I don't know. I'm just assuming this is Crunchyroll Anime Awards, right? Don't they just like it's just popularity awards? Like I hear that these awards are like just so fraudulent.
Rise up, my Isekai trash men. Now is our time.
Let's go.
For our representation. You know what? For many years, for all these years, we needed to play second fiddle of being part of the fantasy category. But now we have our own category, guys.
Thank God. And rename the fantasy category into native isekai, please.
We have won. We are so back with Isekai, man. We are so back. This is our year. This is our year. And looking at these nominations, what can you say about...
Honestly, I don't think, like, it doesn't need to be this deep, but, like, who gives a fuck about these awards genuinely? Isekai has never not back. Isekai has probably been the most junk food, just sheer volume of content pumped out of Karakawa's ass each season, right? These awards mean fucking nothing to me, but it could be fun. It could be fun to just see some spicy takes and see which one's actually gonna win. In my opinion, Re:Zero should win easy. It's not even fucking comparable. Re:Zero? Well, then again, here's the thing. Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Core 2 was also amazing. So it should be a coin toss between Mushoku Tensei and Re:Zero. I don't know which one I would place over the other. Probably I would personally place... Man, the Mushoku Tensei stuff was fucking so crazy though, right? With the Paul stuff and the Zenith and finding Roxy again. That was amazing. Now, Core 2... had a lot of content that I think was way more exciting. The Core 1, it was really lagging on and on. Season 3 was just an all-out fucking highlight reel from Studio White Fox, but it's also the flavor profile of Re:Zero that not everyone kind of prefers from Re:Zero, right? Because people aren't watching Re:Zero for Unga Bunga hype. They're watching it for the psychological thriller of what happens to, Natsuki Subaru's psyches as he continues to suffer and suffer. So, I don't know. It's crazy that Suicide Squad is even on the same fucking tier list right now here. Suicide Squad being on the same fucking category is no. And Tensura Season 3, I'm sorry. Tensura has no place being on here. I don't know about Shangri-La Frontier Season 2. I heard that Shangri-La is actually really good. But in my opinion, it should only be Re:Zero Mushoku Tensei. Tensura Season 3 is not even fucking close to the same caliber that Re:Zero Mushoku Tensei hit. Season 3 was honestly fucking garbage compared to like the previous seasons, and what 8-Bit Studios did with the fucking meetings and the actual content being covered was very weak in my opinion. The meetings were just not hitting and they didn't even direct it or even adapt it in a very engaging way. Suicide Squad, that's just a fucking meme. Shangri-La, I haven't seen it. Konosuba Season 3, I don't think it's comparable to Re:Zero Mushoku Tensei. Konosuba's a fun laugh time, but like I don't think it has the same level of depth that Mushoku Tensei and Re:Zero has. And that's another thing. Does depth matter? If someone just watched an anime and had a fun time just laughing at it, isn't that enough? That's why these awards are such a subjective thing. At the end of the day, it just gets reduced into a popularity contest.
Best Isekai, because I think that not just for fantasy, we got absolutely spoiled for Isekai shows this year. This selection is really good. Some of the most decorated Isekai coming out in the previous year. But I think this category was always going to be between the two heavy hitters, Mushoku Tensei and Re:Zero.
Exactly.
Which to me are not just the best Isekai of last year. These are the two heavyweights that I think are just the best, my top two Isekai of.
Absolutely agreed. And I don't think this is even like a tourist take. I don't think this is a bandwagoning take. I think that is just an objective fact that Re:Zero and Mushoku Tensei are cut above everything, above the rest here that I've seen. I love Eminence in Shadow, but I don't think I would ever put Eminence in Shadow in the same like tier as Re:Zero and Mushoku Tensei, to be completely honest with you. The level of like Eminence in Shadow was very entertaining, and maybe it should kind of be up there. But to me, again, it's just Mushoku Tensei and ReZero, what they kind of did for me, the level of just like emotional impact and just like engagement that I have from those shows. On top of that, with the sheer level of quality, just crazy. I think Eminence in Shadow comes close though. It's honestly one of my favorites too because of how funny it is. It's just so fun to watch. So maybe I would kind of slide it up there in the podium with the rest.
These are just my top 2 isekai of all time, and they both ended up airing within a single year. Both of these have their own selling points. It's really, really hard because before, all right, I'm going to tell you guys a change in opinion, right? Because before, I was the Mushoku Tensei simp. I was the biggest Mushoku Tensei defender, and I still think it's an absolutely amazing isekai. And
same, but I prefer ReZero. I think that Mushoku Tensei is a godlike isekai, but ReZero is still my favorite. I love the, like, I think it also has to do with the main character for sure, right? The show isn't all about Rudeus, but definitely Rudeus is just not a very likable main character for me. Natsuki Subaru has his moments of absolute just shittiness, but at the same time, he's someone that I can honestly root for and just kind of align with more compared to Rudy. So there's that relatability factor, I guess. But like other than that, what else kind of hedges ReZero forward? I can't really say the world building because both shows have amazing deep world building. Some people make this comparison that like, oh, ReZero has no world building. You've been stuck in one like continent forever. But it's just like, bro, world building isn't about labeling so many different regions and continents and just glossing over it or briefly mentioning it. It's about the depth, right? It's not having like 10 shallow buckets. It's one single bucket that's way more, deeper than 10 separate buckets. It's better world building. So I'm not saying one or the other, but like I think that ReZero has plenty of world building and depth. The mysteries constantly. The Mushoku Tensei also has mysteries, but I don't think it's on the same level of ReZero because, like in Mushoku Tensei, I'm wondering, like, how do we get summoned here, right? What's going on with Nanahoshi and the teleportation stuff? What the hell is Orsta really doing? Is he some sort of world police timeline checker? How does he know of like the current stat of like Eris and what she should be at this point and how it's changed because of Rudy and stuff like that? And the human god stuff. That's pretty interesting. Absolutely. I think ReZero has way more though, right? They just have so much more fucking mysteries and questions that constantly keep me guessing. The overall setting between MT and ReZero is also very similar, right? It's like this, I don't know, like medieval old European times. I know that there's different regions definitely differ, but like both settings are similar enough, but it's like the main character, the roster of character, like the roster of side characters too. In MT, I like the girls, like Roxy, Sylphie, Eris, Elaine, goddamn, Orsted, they're nice. But in ReZero, I think there's so much of a wider cast that I'm like more connected to. Like the different role candidates, like Priscilla, Anastasia, Krush, right? Emilia. And then there's like the knights like Al and Julius, who's Julius now, right? Reinhardt and stuff like that. It's just, at this point, it just comes down to a personal preference. I think both shows are fantastic. It's just ReZero hedges a little bit ahead for me, though.
And there were parts of ReZero that I just didn't vibe with. And part of that was Natsuki Subaru's character, where I didn't fully... I'll come out and say it. I didn't fully understand Natsuki Subaru. Or not understand.
That's totally fair. I think that Natsuki Subaru is such a weird character when you try to watch the anime for the first time without any understanding of his backstory and the lacking monologue that makes you question, why would he do this? What the fuck is he doing right now? I've had that question so many times throughout season 1 and into season 2. And then when you get the backstory, then it's just like, okay, all these things are making more sense why he behaves like this, right? There's also like this extra layer of like the realism of him having like a mental breakdown because he's dying over and over again. And a lot of people absolutely despise Subaru because he constantly cries and whines, which is a realistic depiction of the character, but a lot of people don't really care about realism.
I didn't fully connect. That's the right word. I didn't fully connect.
Yeah, you connected with Rudeus though, huh? What are you trying to say right now, Gigguk? Hold up. I wasn't sold on ReZero because the main character Natsuki Subaru, I just didn't understand. I couldn't connect to him. But Mushoku Tensei, I could connect to Rudy. What are you saying right now, bro?
With Natsuki Subaru as a character. And there was a big turning point, actually. And it was meeting the author of ReZero himself.
Okay.
I've said this story before. And meeting the
Didn't he say that Nagatsuki Tape was like a very outgoing Giga Chad?
author of ReZero himself, and just seeing his unbridled energy and enthusiasm. It wasn't like I met the author, therefore my opinion of ReZero must change because now I've met the author. Meeting the author and just feeling his energy. I will never be able to put into words what his energy is. Feeling his energy, feeling his unbridled enthusiasm, and just the fact that his energy was so infectious. It like made me feel better.
What the fuck does that have to do with you understanding Natsuki Subaru's character, though? Like, okay, we can glaze Tape all we want, but like, how does you getting aura farmed by Nagatsuki Tape suddenly have you better understand the story of ReZero? Aren't you basically just fanboying and say, oh my god, he's such a Giga Chad, I like ReZero more than MT now? I don't understand this logical line of thinking.
If he had aura, yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. He definitely had aura because I felt his aura. It's the first time I've experienced anything like this where I felt the kind of person this author was. And
how does this help you appreciate ReZero in terms of understanding Subaru, though? What do you mean?
just by meeting him, feeling his aura, feeling his energy, I was like, I get it. I get Subaru.
No, you don't! What do you mean you get him? None of this shit makes any fucking sense. Because Natsuki Subaru is not that super outgoing Giga Chad. How does this make you understand his like the complexities of what he acts like in season 1 and what he's actually trying to like, you know, hide and run away from the problems and all that stuff that we learned in season 2?
I get Natsuki Subaru. I get what he's trying to say with the character. I understand
you do?
why he's written the way he is and why he
That's crazy. So like watching the anime alone wasn't enough for you to understand the character, but simply witnessing the author and getting aura farmed was enough for you to understand the character. None of this shit fucking makes sense to me.
That's the character arc that he does. Just seeing the amount that Subaru goes through and the character that he ends up in season 3 and the character development that he gets in season 2, it just added that extra little piece for me to like fully see the picture. And it made me appreciate Subaru.
Listen, everyone's brain is wired differently. Who am I to tell Gigguk, you know, this is fucking bullshit? But I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. None of this shit makes any sense to me. Bro didn't understand Natsuki Subaru's characters, the insecurities that he has, coming from Earth, never accomplishing anything, having parents that constantly are there for him, which in turn makes him feel more guilty and suffocated, who then wishes to be punished, who then has a chance to become a hero in this isekai world, but realizes that this is not a fucking game and then has a mental collapse, and you can see time after time him being consumed by the sins and then hitting rock bottom, but at the same time being able to grow and then be a better person. The anime tells you that. What the fuck does meeting the author make you understand the missing link? I don't understand this logic. The idea here is Nagatsuki Tape is such an outgoing Giga Chad that I see the final end goal of Natsuki Subaru as this perfected character after all the developments. Therefore, I understand him now. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. But hey, I'm not Gigguk, and if this makes him understand and appreciate ReZero and not Subaru better, then fuck it, go for it.
Way more as a character, because Mushoku Tensei and ReZero is the tale of two protagonists. While I think, in my opinion...
Hold up, you gotta still defend yourself, bro. You said that you weren't all for ReZero because you didn't understand and couldn't vibe with, you know, the main character. That implies that you did with Rudius. Can you clarify yourself?
Rudy is, to me, my opinion, a more interesting character just because he is just so sometimes uncomfortably realistic. And
so is Subaru. But here's the difference. I think Subaru also is exactly the same in the way that it is so uncomfortably realistic, right? What is the uncomfortably realistic thing about Natsuki Subaru? that he wishes he was the hot ship again, but he never was. He gets constantly, overshadowed by his dad, not to the fault of his dad. And he wants to be something else. And then he crashes out, trying to be a hero, right? But at the end of the day, he was doing it for himself, not to save Amelia. That's a big lesson that we learned in Arc 3. Those are some very uncomfortable, realistic parts about Natsuki Subaru, right? I think we're all on the same page here. Let's go to Mushoku Tensei. The uncomfortable realism for Mushoku Tensei is the fact that this guy is basically a borderline pedophile. And his degenerate tendencies, bro literally was jacking off to lolicon stuff. Missing out on his parents' fucking, it's like the memorial service. I think he also installed like cameras in his like younger cousin or some shit's bathroom, but apparently that was like not the source material canon. Instead, it was like a draft of a different work of Mushoku Tensei. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is there is clearly a difference in the uncomfortable realism that exists in both of the characters. One just happens to be playing around with the PDF territory.
And seeing his character development and seeing his character progress, development is a strong word, seeing his progress.
Is he progressing? Someone made the comment about how Rudius actually isn't learning from anything, which I don't agree with. I think that there are examples, again, over and over, about how Rudius is confronted with the problem. He can relate to his own past experiences in his old life. Then he can have a solution, for example, with the Norn stuff, right? Because he himself was in a depressed state. Constantly being there and say, just be better, bro, isn't going to do anything. And simply by being there and listening was the solution. That is growth, in my opinion. But some people also say that this dude basically is just getting away with everything now. He's basically just hotter. And with a second chance in this new world, nothing has changed in his degenerative tendencies or his behaviors. And instead of being shunned, he's simply being rewarded by getting away with it because he's more attractive rather than looking like a, a typical NEET. Which was a comment that I read and was like, are you cooking right now? Are you rage baiting? Are you cooking? I think there's definitely partial truth in there.
Up and down as a person, up and down as a person, as a viewer is very, very interesting. But Subaru is the character you want to cheer for. Subaru is the character.
Absolutely. You don't really cheer for Rudy. You just kind of seeing like, oh, okay, what's going on with you, bro? Damn, that's wild. That's crazy.
That you respect for no matter what happens to him, no matter how many bad things happen, he stands up and he fights and he finds a way to sort himself out. And
yeah, that's why he's such a compelling character. There's moments in Arc 3 when I think a lot of people gave up on him because he hit rock bottom, which I think is one of the most fascinating things that I've ever seen an isekai author do. Because most, main characters are just perfect Jesus Christ, messiahs that just does whatever the fuck they want. And everything is just perfect. But to have your main character hit rock bottom like that and to crash out on Amelia was like something I've never personally experienced in anime. And that's why I was like, this is different. That's why I still say, that's why Arc 3 is still so special to me. Not because of the peaks of subjugating the white whale or defeating Betelgeuse and stuff like that, but the absolute rock bottom that we hit and the author to do that with the balls that he had to do that, fully aware that so many people will cry and complain and quit the show. And so many people quit in Arc 3 because they just could not stomach Subaru at his lowest. But to me, that was like the most fascinating thing of like, damn, what am I watching right now? Is this actually the main character?
And so it very much comes down to, do I want to pick a character I want to cheer for? Or do I want to pick a character that, from a story perspective, I find incredibly interesting?
Interesting because he dabbles in fucking PDF-like degeneracy. I think that, yeah, again, see what's happening here too, right? The common most deciding factor of a person deciding which isekai they like more between MT and ReZero, it boils down to how much they prefer one MC over the other.
And that's the big thing that I've been debating over in this last year about which one is my favorite isekai. In this,
to me though, it's more than that. I don't watch Mushoku Tensei just for Rudius. I watch Mushoku Tensei for the amazing world building and the rich like depth it has with its also side characters. I know I said the ReZero I think still has better side characters because they're just way more volume and it's more character driven, but MT, like the stuff that was happening with Orsted, or like, you know, the what was his name, the not Perugius or some stuff, right? Or Laplace, like the lore with like the crazy top gods and the powers like that, or the human god and stuff like that. It's so fascinating, right? That's the stuff that I'm really, you know, looking into Mushoku Tensei for, not really for Rudy. Rudy just exists and I'm just indifferent about it. For ReZero, Subaru is better in my opinion than in Rudy in terms of how I can like stomach their character. But again, I don't really watch ReZero for Subaru either. He's a great driving factor and an MC, but again, I care more about like the side characters, the supporting cast, and how they basically are able to just like expand on this rich world of ReZero, right? Lugunica, kingdom, feudal monarchy, dragons, fucking covenants, the lore of Lugunican family and the conspiracy, them all dying out, but yet you have like a princess named Capella Lugunica that should have been dead, but what's, you know what I'm saying, right? Like all these different things is just so interesting to me. It's like an onion layer that you keep peeling back and it just keeps getting better and better. The more that you learn about the world, the more you're engaged into it, the more you want to know.
This particular instance, in this particular season, I actually think it's ReZero.
You're basically comparing like a hype battle shonen versus like a psychological show, in my opinion, for these seasons, right? And I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. Because Core 2, what Rudy's is going through with Roxy, and then later, you know, the marriage stuff is funny, I guess, haha. But like, I'm talking about the Father's Day episode and the Zenith and stuff like that. That is like despair and psychological fucked upness that you would find in ReZero in like in like the season 2 and season 1, but not really in season 3 to that extent. The character development with Norn too, that was fantastic, absolutely. Like, it just feels like these two shows, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an isekai category. I'm just saying, like, it's hard to, like, directly compare Core 2 of Season 2 of MT with ReZero Season 3, because how fundamentally different they were. One is an all-out Unga Bunga hype fest, which also has a lot of, you know, there's definitely is secrets and mysteries and lore being presented, but clearly this is not the same flavor of ReZero that we saw in Season 2 or Season 1, which I think is a lot more comparable if we're going to, you know, compare like Mushoku Tensei. But at the end of the day, it's so what? What about Konosuba? You know, what about Suicide Squad or Shangri-La or Tensura? They're all doing different shit too, but I'm just saying, just like these two seasons compared, it's kind of hard to compare.
I actually think it's ReZero. I think ReZero tops it for both of these seasons. And the biggest reason for that is, I think, for singular best episodes, Mushoku Tensei has the singular best episode.
I would agree. The peak of like the Father's Day episode was so shocking to me. Even though we all saw it coming, the way that it wrapped up, the way it happened, and then the post-credit with the mom was like, what the fuck? That shit was akin to like ReZero Season 1 episode 15, right? Like basically the end credits rolling and you're just kind of left in shock. You're like, what the fuck just happened? In ReZero Season 3, you don't really get that, in my opinion, right? You don't get that level of like emotional turbulence and fucked upness. Some people are probably gonna say, oh, Julius losing his name was so memorable. Shut the fuck up. Listen, Julius losing the name and stuff like that, yeah, okay. I don't think it's even fucking close to what happened with Rudy and the dad and the mom, though.
That aired between these two, because the Father's Day episode, absolutely fantastic. And the reason ReZero gets this one is
consistently every episode was very entertaining, engaging, hype. Compared to MT, where, you know, you're doing a little bit of setup here, a little bit of exploring here. Some episodes are not as exciting as the others, and that's totally fine.
I think that seeing Subaru's development, seeing Subaru's journey as a knight, not just as some random person that got transported to another world, you can see a lot of the payoff of Subaru's character.
That's true, especially with the speech episode. I think that this season it definitely solidified Natsuki Subaru's like development into a much better person than he was back in season 1 and 2.
So that has been building up from season 1 and season 2. And Subaru, even though this wasn't the action-packed season, Subaru really steps up this season.
Yeah, he did.
And seeing his, without spoiling, seeing his moments in the latter half of season 3 was a magical experience. And I really, really enjoyed that. On the opposite.
Yeah, the speech stuff was amazing. What else was really amazing for Subaru? The fact that he, even in like the beginning, not, you know, constantly he's trying to do shit by himself, but he fails over and he have to suffer, right? That's a lesson that we learned. And now he's reaching out. We got Emilia, we got Gigguk, we can learn to rely on others. Subaru's way of like, I guess, the way that Regulus was defeated too, right? It was nice. Like it's just like season 3, I think, again, is like the pop-off moment for the main character to really show how much he's developed.
And
yeah, very little, if any, L's for Subaru in season 3. I don't think there was a single L, to be honest, other than the slight mistake of him panicking in episode 2, season 3, where it's just constantly death by Sirius over and over again. But other than that, I genuinely can't think of a single moment after that where he's crashing out and fucking up and we're just like, oh brother, this is so cringe to watch. Didn't really see any of that, which I low-key miss. I want that Subaru back. because of those moments you get heated drama. When he's just perfect all the time, it's kind of boring, you know what I mean? In a very interesting way where, the character has grown up and developed so much, and now we don't get the spicy content because of his, downfalls.
Mushoku Tensei, in terms of execution, I think, in terms of purely executions, had some things with the final 2 episodes, had some executions that just left a little bit of a bitter aftertaste in my mouth. It hasn't changed the way I viewed the entire series.
Yeah, it is the reason MT is so spicy. Absolutely true. The way that Rudy is constantly, indulges in his degeneracy and all that other shit, right? That we're talking about. That is the content. It is very compelling to keep watching because we're like, oh shit, what's gonna happen next? Yo, he fucking Roxy too instead of Sophie. Oh my goodness, like stuff like that. Like sometimes I don't really care about the development or the overall like trajectory of a character. Sometimes I just want to see spicy drama. I just want to see nuclear content.
But in terms of pure execution, it left a little bit of an aftertaste in my mouth, and I was just like, ooh, okay. For the first time, I wasn't really happy with that. Maybe it needed a few more episodes to really flesh out these major character moments that you guys are presenting me with, to the point where I'm like, ooh, I really enjoyed it, but that I wasn't sure. I didn't really enjoy that. So that is why, for this year, ReZero gets the dub for me. That was a very long segment. That was a very long yapping segment. But, of course, it's the Isekai segment that is the longest bit. But, yeah, right now, in terms of my favorite Isekai, ReZero and Mushoku Tensei are like neck and neck.
Same. It's honestly like a very insignificant gap in difference. Like we're comparing like a 9.8 to like a 9.7 or a 6, right? Like they're so close in my heart for me too.
Love them both for different reasons, but they are basically neck and neck for me. And you know what? Mushoku Tensei fan, ReZero fans, can we not just... Come on, guys.
Impossible. People always engage in tribalism. There is no way. Even a political marriage between, the voice actors of Rudy and Subaru is not enough. There will always constantly be. But hey, with Tibet coming into the fray, maybe MT can be busy, fighting with Tibet instead of ReZero. At the end of the day, I think that both shows are fucking amazing. If there's anything that I think competes with ReZero and Mushoku Tensei, I don't really know at the top of my head right now. Because, I hear that Overlord is amazing, but I haven't seen it. I hear Tensura, I think, should be one of those great isekais too, but I think the production value is really killing it. It's hard to put Tensura in the same podium as ReZero and MT when there's clearly such a big difference in the way that each episode is handled with love and care. Like, we saw season 3. It was not as amazing as it should have been. Eminence in Shadow may seem like a meme pick, but at the same time, I think Eminence in Shadow was done so well, right? Like, the substance, the material. I mean, at this point, it kind of feels like, you know how, like, when we're doing award ceremonies in Hollywood of Grammys and stuff like that, you'll never have like a comedy anime ever win because simply due to its genre and category. They will always glaze like such deep, compelling meta commentary about society and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that, right? But they will never acknowledge like a really funny like Adam Sandler movie because of its category and niche. That's kind of how I feel about Eminence in Shadow. And I want to get rid of that prejudice. I think Eminence in Shadow is goated. I think that it's such a fun anime to watch. It doesn't need to have the same level of depth and storytelling and psychological, thriller and phenomenon compared to like MT and ReZero. Eminence in Shadow clearly has a different set of goals. It is a very, ironic and sarcastic take on, like aura farming Sid, NPC behavior, and just showing up and stunting on everybody. He honestly is bro was aura farming way before Jinwoo was. If every episode was so engaging to watch. I think the studios and the producers, the team that worked on it, put a lot of quality in it. Soundtrack was fucking amazing too. The fight scenes were hype. What more could you ask for, to be honest? I think Eminence in Shadow does perfectly fine, with its only limitation maybe being that it's just too much of like comedy and gag. But then you look at fucking Konosuba. Konosuba is your fucking bro. I think Eminence in Shadow easily clears Konosuba season 3. Straight up. Suicide Squad shouldn't even be fucking here right now. What other isekais right now have we watched that was so good that I think I would put up there? Nothing else, man. Most of the other isekais are just junk food slop. I don't think. Skimichi Moon of Fantasy, I don't think is really up there. Skimichi Moon of Fantasy is an enjoyable watch, but I don't think it has that level of like... The production was okay, but it's not as good as MT or ReZero in my opinion. And the story itself, it's a very chill show to watch. Like, I don't hate Skimichi, but at the same time, it's a bit flat. It's a show that I just kind of watch on my downtime and just kind of chill with it and have fun here and there. But I don't think it comes close to like MT or ReZero. What other shows have there? Or even Eminence in Shadow? No Game No Life? It's not. That's an old ash. I'm talking about any new isekais that we've seen recently. Most of the isekais are just so fucking garbage, bro. They're just like, 6s or like 7s out of 10 at best. It's really hard to like find an actual isekai that can compete on the same stage as ReZero and MT. But that's pretty much it. Gigguk's final take. The one thing that I still don't understand is I did not understand the character of Natsuki Subaru until I met the author, and because the author aura farmed me, now I get it. It's a take that just blows my mind. But hey, as long as it works for him, please check out Gigguk's. All right, this is Sleepy Clips channel. This is Sleepy Clips channel where he, basically edits Gigguk streaming, gives us little bite-sized clips to farm. Thank you, Sleepy Clips. Here's the link to the video. Go give it a like if you did. Subscribe to their channel for more. See you next time.